Well, that's the point of the show. We're very opinionated people.
Yes, yes. Everyone who makes a podcast is.
Yeah, but they don't pretend to be opinionated. They pretend to be neutral. Like, that's what game journalism is now. Motherfucker, I saw an article today who was like, oh, I feel so awkward playing Modern Warfare 2 with real war going on. Oh, I don't like the way this makes me feel. I was like, fuck the fuck off.
Yeah, because war is such a new concept.
The point of these things, going back to World War II and infinite into the year 3000 or whatever, it's always been and always will. Sorry, to be human is to be in conflict.
Yeah, what about all those times, all those previous first-person shooters that he was playing when there were still troops in Afghanistan and Iraq?
There has literally never not been war.
And what is it good for?
Making some fun video games. This is the internet's worst gaming podcast. I'm your host, Loki Jarson. Here, with me here again today is Joe Stizzy. How you doing, Stizzy?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm excellent. First bit, let's do some news because this is a news journalism podcast and we are professional journalists who are professionally paid.
That's exactly right. All the big bucks.
The medium bucks. The week of us recording this, so you know how old this episode is, both Konami and Capcom came out with new, quote unquote, installments in their long running horror franchises. Konami showed a showcase of Silent Hill 2 Remake, which people have been port begging for years, and another Silent Hill game, and like a mobile game, and like a movie. And the interest on the Twitter, as far as I can tell, has been very mixed. I never played any Silent Hill games, but I've seen playthroughs of them, and they've never really done anything for me. It always seems like a huge pain in the ass to play. But I know that 2 is the most beloved of the series.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I never played any of them. Yeah, seen playthroughs and all that, and I know quite a bit about them. But I don't know what it was. We were talking about that the other day when they first revealed these, like why I didn't play them when I was younger, and
Hmm.
because I've always liked horror games, and Resident Evil, which we're going to talk about later, is one of my favorites. And it's not like I really felt a fanboy loyalty back then for Resident Evil, and told myself, no, I'm not playing Silent Hill. They're the competition. But it was maybe it was just the setting just always looked, everything's foggy and grimy and you know back then
There,
janky looking. I don't know.
there's something to be said for aesthetic, right? Like, on the PlayStation 1, when these games originally came out, you could only do so much. And 2, we had a little more, a little prettier, and then we've gone all the way into where we are now. But aesthetic of grime and grit is always kind of centralized to the modern horror game. But Silent Hill has always been ugly, no matter when. It's like been purposefully ugly on purpose. You go down a hallway and it's just brown and dirty and filthy. It's just bleh. Like, that's the point of the game.
Yeah, and even though I just said that I didn't play it because I was a fan of Resident Evil, I couldn't help compare the two back then. And Resident
Mm-hmm.
Evil always had the colorful characters, both visually and personality wise, and uh, the settings were always uh, really, really memorable and varied. And there was a lot more enemy types in Resident Evil, it seemed like. But yeah, it just seemed like
I
the
have
better of the two.
my own personal issues that are with early Resident Evils, but I will 100% acknowledge that it is more of a game than any Silent Hill game. Because it's like, oh, you gotta manage your ammo and all this crap. Oh, you get worried about how many herbs. Oh no, you've been poisoned, whatever. But it's still a video game, It's still designed for you to have fun in it. Every time I see a Silent Hill thing, I was like, does anyone have fun playing this? Like, are you just you're just a shit farmer? You just grind low level enemies and smack them with a wrench, and then the wrench breaks, and it's like, oh no, your loved one you've been looking for has been dead all along. It's all in your head. Ooh.
Yeah, definitely one of the first examples of psychological horror, at least in the video game sphere. So I guess that kind of stuff does appeal to people. Um, I never been
I
that. I've
guess.
I've never been that kind of horror fan. Uh, I like more mundane threats that you can
But
see and
it's
hear.
it's the degree of interactivity, right? Because in Resident Evil, even the early games, you're looking to stop the monsters. In Silent Hill, they purposefully designed it so you have incredibly low resources, so you need to avoid the monster. Don't fight. Explore the depths of your psyche. And it's like, yeah, but what if I want to fight? Don't. No, okay, well then no, I'm not playing your game. And there's a lot of I have to internalize this bias, shall we say, because that still happens. Look at a game like, say, this is not a terrific comparison, but those Dark Pictures games, right? They're on the fringe of horror, but there's still things you can do in them. There's a lot of celebrities, a lot of digital acting, but you still do things in them. You still fight enemy, you still hide from enemy, you still engage in decision making, conversation, quick time events. It's a game, as opposed to something like Outlast. Outlast is barely a game, and the game, and Five Nights at Freddy's, and the one where you're the other very similar one, Bendy's Inc. something or other. It's like you're not fighting anything; you're just hiding all the time. You sneak around, you run out of battery, you look through your damn slender camera, and you just hide the whole game. It's like, how is this a game? How is this fun to play? Why are there so many of these?
Yeah, the Dark Picture games are they're kind of prettier, better looking Telltale games, or at least different
Yeah,
art style, whatnot. So, but yeah, you're right. They have a set gameplay loop, and you know what you're getting. You know what to expect every time you boot one up. Um, I've never played Outlast, but yeah, I do know about it. And yeah, there's very little interaction or things to do. Um, and I think Isolation, which I've also never played. Suddenly turned into the video game podcast of games we have not played, but
oh, that's not the first time we've ever done that.
of course not. But I think there's also a lot of hiding in Alien. But I do think you eventually do fight back against the alien in that game. So
I've played it on Game Pass. I think I got like 4 hours in. Not yet. It's just a lot of hiding. Very boring, but lots of people love it. But it's an interesting dichotomy here because in terms of like the Silent Hills, the Isolations, the Outlast, there's a genre of game, horror game, subgenre, I guess I could say, of where all you're doing is being scared. You're just being tense. You know, whatever you want to say about those early Resident Evils, I still don't think there was that much tension. Maybe early, but late game Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, you're not scared of nothing because you've got an arsenal. Late game Silent Hill 1, 2, 3, 4, The Room, Downpour, you're constantly terrified because you've got no resources.
yeah, yeah, and I guess there's probably some purists out there that would say that's what a horror game should be like. But uh, I think the tension from Resident Evil games always came from what's around the next corner, and am I sufficiently prepared for it?
Hmm.
Which probably shares that quality with Silent Hill. Um, like you said, when you get to a certain point in the end game, late game, you're pretty fully decked out, and you're you know feeling pretty good about yourself, whatever you come across. But that sense of, at least for me, that need to hoard all of my ammunition and all my best weapons. That's and I've been like that ever since. And I think that probably when it originated, when I played the early Resident Evil games. Uh, just because like you get a really good weapon, and I wouldn't want to use it right away. It's like, okay,
Understandable, sure.
I got the Magnum. All right, I'm not going to use this even on hunters, even if I'm low health. I'm still just going to manage with my pistol and shotgun or whatever. So, and yeah, that's been instilled in me to this day.
It's very interesting because I didn't play any of those spooky games. I don't know. I couldn't give you why. I don't know, my parents or me. I don't know what the reasoning was. I never gravitated towards those kind of games. Mostly because I didn't have a PlayStation. They were all on friggin' PlayStation. So when I play something scary, the scariest games I've ever played, and we've kind of transitioned here, but are the first Dead Space and like the first Bioshock. The first Bioshock to me was fucking terrifying because yeah, you've got a lot of guns. There's a dude you never see on the radio constantly telling you about things. There's weird whispers in the corner. There's monsters jumping out. It's dark as fuck. It's constantly raining because you're underwater. These huge lumbering slow things. And I say the first 75% of that game is tension-filled corridors, but you have a lot of guns, so it's not too terrible.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with the setting being underwater in Rapture. I always felt they did a really good job of uh, making that feeling of claustrophobia come across in almost everywhere you went in that game,
Hmm.
every hallway and every corridor you would go into. Yeah, it, it was really that game was pretty creepy, I will admit.
Plus all the little girls sneaking around saying weird shit.
Hmm.
Terrifying.
The creepiest of
Um,
all.
but those two, I highlight those two in specific because yes, they're scary, but I've got a fuck ton of guns, so I can fight back. And I think that's where my appeal lies. It's not in constantly being terrified. It's okay. There's something scary. I'm gonna go kill it. So that allows us very nicely to transition to Resident Evil 4. That was the first one I ever played way back on the GameCube. And I cheated the hell out of it, but I played through it like 4 or 5 times, I think, for a GameCube game. That was phenomenal. And, different weapons and stuff, and the occasional different mode. I don't remember if Mercenaries was on the GameCube. Been a long time.
I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, but I believe it was unlocked after you beat the game.
Hmm.
There's been so many versions of the game. It's
That's
hard.
true. Yes, they have. It's interesting that they're doing a remake, considering they've re-released it every year, basically, since their initial release.
It definitely feels that way. That's for sure. I couldn't even. It would take less time to name all the platforms it's not available on.
So before they finally showcased it, I mean, it's been rumored for years, and then we finally had a look at it earlier this year, I believe. Some like very brief scene, and here's a character model in shadows, like oh, spooky. But a day after the Silent Hill 2 remake reveal, they showed the Resident Evil 4 remake, and that was way more impressive on both the technical level and the gameplay level.
Yeah, it's funny if they hadn't scheduled the showcase beforehand, weeks ahead of time.
Mm.
I would have said that they released it in direct competition of the Silent Hill trailer drops, just to steal their thunder. But yeah, I think it was. I guess it was just good timing or poor timing if you're Konami.
Well, Konami, good God, Konami, we could spend a whole show talking about all their mistakes, but what do they have left, really? They have Silent Hill and they have Metal Gear, and they're not doing anything with one of those.
Yeah, I guess they still got some other IPs like Castlevania and a few others, but it's been so long since, like you said, they've done anything significant with them.
Mm.
I can't even remember any of the.
Meanwhile, Capcom's coming out with banger after banger. They're a huge market share in Japan specifically, and the Monster Hunters and the Resident Evils. Not Monster Hunter. I'm sorry. Uh, is it Monster Hunter? What the fuck is that one where you hunt monsters? Is it
Yeah,
called Monster Hunter? I don't play it. I'm sorry.
yeah, Capcom's Monster Hunter, I believe.
Monster Hunter
Yeah.
and Street Fighter and of course Resident Evil series, and they own rights to Mega Man and Devil May Cry. They haven't done Mega Man in a long time, but they've released games recently in these franchises, made a shitload of money, so they can just keep pouring it back into it. So their output is of the last few years has been crazy. They're coming out with that dinosaur game that's not Dino Crisis. Remember
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it though.
Exo Primal? I remember.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so they can just pour resources back into their franchise and make them look incredible. So first of all, Resident Evil 4 looks like a next gen game. Finally, it's nice to see. Although 2 and 3, had their moments. Uh, Most of my concerns about with like character modeling and voice acting were half and half alleviated. It's like I like the new look of mostly everyone. I'm not too keen on the new voices for everyone.
Yeah, no, the voices, I like the guy that got playing Leon. He did it in this 2 remake, and
Hmm.
he's kind of changed his tone. It's a
He
little
sounds more like a man instead of a little boy. Yes,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
good.
It's not as bright-eyed anymore. He's been through some shit, and he's a little gruffer, little lower tone, which is appropriate for what the character's been through. But um, like Ashley, I can't even, I don't hate it, and it's not as shrilly as the original Ashley,
Hmm.
but I can't think of it like off the top of my head. And I've heard her voice several times in trailers and whatnot. It's just I guess just generic white girl voice, but I can live with it. But Luis sounds and looks like the greasiest MFer you ever laid eyes on.
He's so scummy. It's like, oh man, this guy would. I can't say Antonio Banderas suave, but I think that's what they were going for in the original GameCube release.
Hmm.
He's like, I'm a cool guy. Buy Nasonex for Honey Nut Cheerios. Stuff like that. This guy's like, oh, you're looking for someone, huh? Yeah, I'm doing a little dance while I'm talking like this because this is how people do this talk.
He was kind of shimmying back and forth. It was weird.
He just got the greasiest hair and the ugliest dude. It's like, oh man, that guy's great. I love him already.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll admit the original Luis in 4 had, he was a little slick because he was basically, he defected from Sadler's organization and
Hmm.
stole the sample of the Lost Plagueis virus. So yeah, there's a little shiftiness to him, but yeah, they went full all in on the snake oil dealer with it in
That's,
this
that's,
remake.
that's, it's good you bring that up because I think there are going to be very similar story elements. I can't see them changing too much of the story elements. I think they will change character elements. It's time to talk about it. In the original game, when Luis first meets Ashley, he's like, "Wow, you've got big tits," and there's no way in hell we're gonna get that in this new game because we live in current year. Whether or not we should is irrelevant. That's not gonna happen. So I think that's what's gonna happen later on. Much later in the game, Ada, who shows up in this game out of nowhere wearing his red Chinese Shongsam, I think they're called. I could be wrong. Uh, and Krauser, one of the villains, that says, the bitch in the red dress. And it's like, okay, that's not going to happen either. One, because they've changed their outfit. And two, there's no way they're going to let him say that.
Hmm.
And you can say, wokeification, the Obamification of America's pussies, Japan, whatever, leading to pop ideology. If it's still fun to play, I will happily ignore all that shit. But I'm absolutely guaranteeing they're going to change character work to fit in with a more modern audience.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And all those examples you listed, a lot of things that are wrong with media today. I still have a problem with those, but call me a hypocrite, but I kind of give a little leeway when it's a franchise and game I love, and also the fact that it's a remake. Um,
Yeah, yeah. All we can do is kind of shake our fist at it. But, I went over this off air about the Saints Row stuff. It's like, I don't like what you're telling me, but I enjoy the gameplay enough that I can ignore what you're telling me. And I think that's the very, the uniqueness of games that you can get your own experience out of the thing. If these voice actors suck and the things they say suck in Resident Evil 4, skip the fucking cutscene. Don't pay attention. Go make a sandwich and come back and play the actual game part, the part that matters.
yeah, it's the whole sensory thing is, kind of weird. Don't want to go to a tangent or anything, but you brought up the line of Luis's line of commenting on Ashley's assets when they
I see
first
the
meet.
president has equipped his daughter with ballistics.
Ballistics. And I could totally see them cutting that out, and I don't really have a problem with that. I do think it adds to his character, and I think it would add even more to this his remakes character. Slimy looking fucker he is. But taking out, the other example you gave, Krauser's line about referring to Ada as the bitch in the red dress.
Mhm.
Um, aside from the fact that she's changing her outfit, it doesn't make sense to take that line out because Krauser's a bad guy. it's the pagan men argument all again. Like, oh no,
Yeah, yeah.
I can't believe this guy's a racist. And Ubisoft had to say, yeah, he's a bad guy. Bad guys are racist. So yeah, bad guys shouldn't be censored, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, how about that? The other characters they've introduced in Sadler is less Emperor Palpatine camp. Uh, Mendez is a big Spider-Man with a beard. Uh, Salazar is a little midget. Sorry, a little midget with his big poofy hat hair now instead of a big hat. Who's the other fucker? Somebody else.
Oh, the
Oh, the
sheriff.
merchant. The fucking
Oh
merchant
yeah.
is not Australian anymore. R.I.P. Bad Australian merchant. Now he's bad British.
Yeah, yeah, I did not sound Australian at all, and I'm reading comments on the internet. I'm amazed on how many people thought the original merchant's voice sounded like a British accent.
No.
And I'm thinking, okay, I'm not the best with identifying dialects, but that was most certainly an Australian accent, what he used in that. And it was, yeah, it's a shame that they didn't get Paul Mercier back, who actually voiced Leon as well in the original.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he did Leon and the Merchant. But, it's
I'm
something to get
gonna.
used to.
If you have any final, I'm cutting this part out. But if you have any final thoughts on this, this is what I want to use to transition to the voice actor thing.
No, just to say that I'm looking forward to, our remake and all that, and
Oh yeah,
this,
absolutely.
trailer. This recent trailer has just turned my hype and excitement up to the maximum, and I cannot believe it's gonna be out in like 5 months. Cross fingers with as many delays as we get nowadays.
I said this to you off air, but I think it's worth repeating. We've seen so far what they've kept and what they're adding. We won't know what they're taking away until we actually play it. We won't know what we've lost until we got it, or it's gone, I guess.
Yeah, most of the time developers don't tell you about what they're taking
No, they
out,
do not. Unless they're BioWare, but yes.
yeah, and yeah, they usually don't do it in fear that they may lose customers that way,
Mm.
or if there's just a great outpouring of is this going to be in, is this going to be in, is this going to be in, and they just go yes or no or whatever just to shut up the masses. Uh, but I hope they add more than they take away, and hopefully the stuff they take away is not a big deal, like maybe the throwaway lines. I still, speaking of the dialogue, I do still wish they keep the campy stuff. Uh,
Leon told one joke in that new trailer where he set a cow on fire. Also, what a dick. But it's like there's hope. It's like maybe he could have throw in a quip every now and then because these games were never dead serious until about 5 and 6. I think 6 really dialed it up. There's no happiness in 6 at all.
mhm.
There's no jokes in 7 or Village. It's like nobody's smiling, joking, cracking wise.
Yeah,
And I think there was a lot of that camp in the early game just because of the bad voice acting on purpose.
mhm.
But Leon is constantly quipping throughout that game. He's throwing one-liners like he's in the fucking Die Hard movie constantly.
Yeah, and I think it was a nice callback to the earlier games. It's still
Mm-hmm.
because with the new perspective in 4 that they added in 4, it was obviously it was such a drastic new direction for the franchise, and a lot of people, including myself, were afraid that it wasn't going to be a good direction. It was going to be a bad thing for the game, and I was afraid it was just going to lose its identity. And I think having those lines in, uh, really made it feel like, kept the spirit of the old
Mm-hmm.
campy dialogue from the earlier Resident Evils alive. And, of course, it also helped that the game is just fun and amazing. It's great to play.
Yeah.
And hopefully they add on more to that, more guns. Uh, from the trailer, you can see that there's a parry system, and I guess I don't know if it's and I think there's also like a self-defense system as well, which has been in previous Resident Evils, including the RE1 remake and the RE2 remake. And but yeah, they've kicked it up a notch with this new parry system, and I don't think it's indefinite because uh, if you notice in the trailer when he parries the chainsaw guy with a knife, you can tell the icon turn for the knife turns red, which seems to indicate that it broke or lost all durability or whatnot, and you couldn't use it again. So that's nice. Not a constant security get out of jail free card whenever
Right.
you're in shit.
Which is what happened with 3, right? Like, Jill had infinite dodge, right?
Yeah, you could essentially spam it. Now you could get caught. You could if your timing was off, you could also get tagged. But if you got one of the training manuals that increases the timing window of the invincibility frames, then yeah, you could essentially just swoop out of everything, and it's required if you want to beat it in the higher difficulties. But
Uh,
that's
Good.
they putting the durability in for that at least seems to, yeah, really make it so you can't abuse it. So
But anyways, yeah, let's. I don't usually like doing previews of games, but as an extended look at Resident Evil 4, more news in March. But we're both much more hopeful than we were before the showcase.
yeah, it's we make exceptions for personally one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, it was my first Resident Evil. I enjoyed it a hell of a lot way back when. Enjoy it again. But to tangent off from a little while ago, speaking of changing voice actors, they also changed the voice actors. Ada is back, but it's not the same Ada that was in Resident Evil 2 remake. I don't know the reasons why, but here's what I do know: there's no uproar about it. People are like, "Huh, that's different. Oh well," and they move on. Do you know why there's no uproar about it?
No, why isn't there?
Because the original voice actress for Ada didn't come out and say, "Don't buy this new game."
Ah, well, at least yeah, she still got 5 months.
Well, yeah. So this is going to be a really weird topic for us to talk about because it's about a game neither of us give a shit about. But
Running with the theme of the episode.
no, it's I'm not saying I won't play Silent Hill 2 remake. I will play Resident Evil 4 remake. I can't say I won't play Silent Hill 2. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in Bayonetta 3 primarily because I did play Bayonetta 1 and 2 and I didn't like them. So I'm like, I don't want to continue this franchise. It's not my thing. So a couple weeks ago, this is gonna be super dated when you hear this. I'm very sorry with the way I edit. But the original voice actress for Bayonetta, Helena Taylor, I believe her name is, got replaced by Jennifer Hale, and we didn't know about this until like a month ago. And everybody's like, I think Platinum Games came out and said, "Oh, there were scheduling conflicts; she couldn't make it." And that happens. VA's change in games a lot. It sucks that you know the voices from old Resident Evil 4 aren't in new Resident Evil 4, but that's the way things are. It's a business.
Yeah, plus
Um,
that game came out 18 years ago, so it's a little
I
more.
think Mercer could still do the voice.
He probably could. Yeah, I don't know if I've heard him in anything recently, but
Yeah,
yeah,
basically with
yeah,
Critical Role. But yeah, yes, but then and everyone just kind of figured, oh, that sucks. And then the original voice actor for Bayonetta made like a video or a post or something and said, Platinum Games lowballed me. They didn't offer me enough money. I felt insulted. Please don't buy the new game. Boycott it because I'm not in it. Which is a hell of a thing for an actor to say, period. It's like, you guys are in a union, right? And you just like prevented yourself from getting a new gig. Of course, because
yeah.
the internet is reactionary.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, not only is she in a union, she's also in the same union as Jennifer Hale is.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So she's stabbing her in the back.
Now, this was a two pronged problem. One problem is you believe. I'm going to say we. When I say we, I'm going to use the overall arc of the internet, okay? I don't mean me and you.
Universal we. Yeah.
Yes, the royal we. You believe people when they tell you a thing directly. And a lot of people don't like. I don't remember his first name. His family is Kamiya, the guy in charge of Platinum Games. He was the co founder, so he's not getting ousted anytime soon unless he does something actual criminal. But he went on like a Twitter blocking rampage when Taylor said, no, don't buy this game. They didn't give me enough money. And he was like, no, that's not the truth. That's not the truth at all. But he wouldn't say what the truth was. And then whether or not people actually attacked Jennifer Hale, this is another one of those things. It's like, you know, when What's Her Nuts from Overwatch show was like, look at all these racist posts, shows 2 posts. It's like, how many are actually doing this though? How many people are actually attacking Jennifer Hale with mean tweets? Like, what does that fucking mean?
Yeah,
So
and
Hale came out with a statement that said, I'm under an NDA. I'm not going to talk about it. Be kind to each other, which is like, your generic bullshit.
yeah,
And then almost there. And then news reports of I say actual journalist Shire was involved, but it didn't involve PlayStation, so he can be unbiased in this one. Shire came out with a report, and VGC corroborated it and saying they didn't offer her. She said they offered her $4,000. They offered her $4,000 per session over like 4 or 5 sessions, so it's 16 to 20, which was the usual rate. And other voice actors, when Taylor released her initial video, said that's the usual rate. I think Ben Diskin and some other people. Fucking Solid Snake, what's his name?
David Hayter.
David Hayter even came out in support of her on that same day. But lo and behold, when the reports came out, everyone was like, well, she could have been telling the truth. That's almost as good. Voice actors really should be paid more because a majority of people took her side in the initial video. And when the stories came out, people were like, well, it's a difficult situation. People didn't want to fucking apologize or you know, take the L, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't know. This whole this whole situation has. I mean, there's still a lot of unknowns on both sides. That
There's a lawsuit incoming, I
I,
guarantee you.
yeah, that we just still don't know because I yeah, you said that Schreier came out and he had sources with the recording studio that did the English dubbing or VA
Mm-hmm.
work for the game, and supposedly he had sources that told him how much he was getting per session and how many approximate sessions would take to fully record the lines, plus documentation, which Schreier swears he saw, but obviously he says, "Oh no, I can't show them to you, But I don't just trust me on this, bro."
No, again, I think Schreier's like this fucking guy. He's incredibly self proud, and he's in the Keeley's verse of wanting to keep contacts in the industry, like keep his media access so much so he's willing to protect the media out. Like he's more likely to want to protect Platinum than tell the truth. Yes, but I think a lot of his shit has been Sony side, and this is a Nintendo story. So I'm more likely to believe it than if it were a story about, let's say, Naughty Dog, which I know he hid information on.
Yeah, plus Helena Taylor is not likely to get him, you know, this backstage access to these development studios and invites to these super secret, exclusive events. So, yeah, of course he's going to go bat with the big big
Uh,
developers and publishers, but
but before the story broke, on towards something you said before it was post her video before the news stories. You said you theorized that Platinum lowballed her specifically to get her out because they didn't want her back. And I said that's a very interesting idea. That seems to be actually probably what did happen, because there's no fucking way Jennifer Hale got paid less than Helena Taylor.
yeah, especially since if they are in the both in the same union and they, have a set price, depending on your experience in the field. And Helena Taylor, I've heard her and stuff, but I skimmed through her IMDb page the other day, and she's not credited with a ton of work. Bayonetta is definitely her, her biggest role, and of course Jennifer Hale has been in almost damn near everything for the past 2 decades. Um, so yeah, it seemed unlikely, yeah, that they were paying Hale less, but maybe it was just maybe for them it wasn't a matter of paying one voice actor more or less. It was the fact that maybe they just wanted Jennifer Hale. Maybe they wanted
Mm-hmm.
a big name tied to this game because Bayonetta 2 released exclusively for the Nintendo Switch, and it sold okay. It didn't
Okay,
sell great.
I wanna cut you off. I'm sorry, I wanna cut you off. It came out on the Wii U first because I played it on the Wii U. That's right, it was me, the one guy.
Okay, I forgot it came out in the Wii U. But I think overall it sold about 1 million copies, which is okay. It's not great. It's okay. Um, so maybe they thought hiring on Hale would give them a little extra boost. I don't know. I've never bought a game just for a voice actor, and I've never gone to see a movie because of an actor before.
Hmm.
But that's me. There are a lot of people that they like certain actors and voice
See,
actors and whatnot. So
you and I specifically don't have to go all that far back into our own history of this already happened to us. With the guy I forgot earlier, Solid Snake. I said the name Solid Snake, and you knew instantly who the guy was.
David Hayter, yeah.
Except in the most recent Metal Gear Solid game, he wasn't because he got replaced by Hollywood man Kiefer Sutherland. But but Hater was so iconic to that role. The second you think who's the voice actor for Solid Snake, you don't think Kiefer Sutherland.
No. And Sutherland was okay in that role, and
He's fine.
I still enjoyed playing the game. I certainly didn't enjoy watching the game or listening to.
Let's not go back there. But that,
Yeah,
like that situation has already happened. I think the difference being that David Hayter didn't cut a promo on Kiefer Sutherland.
yeah. And while I think it was a bad change to axe Hayter from the role. It was understandable because anybody that knows anything about Hideo Kojima knows that he's just got a big boner for Hollywood, and
Oh yeah, still does.
he wants to make movies and make games with all these Hollywood celebrities and whatnot, and it's just personally I think it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. It's like the nerdy kid that wants to hang out with the popular kids table in high school, but uh, yeah, this situation with Taylor, it's I that came out of that Bloomberg report, and it basically all the sources in it are all Schreier sources that are anonymous. And I told you you know, off mic that either Platinum or Nintendo could come out and make a statement and resolve all of this. Well, Platinum Games came out with a statement. Um, I got it here right now.
All right.
You can decide whether this resolved anything. We at Platinum Games offer our sincerest appreciation to everyone who has contributed to creating the Bayonetta series over the years, as well as the community that has served as its foundation. We give our full support to Jennifer Hale as the new Bayonetta and align with everything in her statement. We ask people to please refrain from any further comments that would disrespect Jennifer or any of the other contributors to the series. Okay, so they're saying they got Hale's back and all the other, you know, people that go into making the character of Bayonetta.
So when people were calling for people quote unquote were calling for boycotts, the counter argument was, a lot of people worked on Bayonetta. One voice actor does not make the thing, and that was my position. I got into a back and forth with someone who was like, "Oh, I don't feel right playing this game now." It's like, you know what? That's totally fine for you, but if someone else doesn't give a fuck, then you can't get mad at them for buying the game anyways. And someone else talked to me, added me, or whatever they say, and said, only people in English care about this. So I was like, yeah, Nintendo and Platinum are Japanese fucking companies. No Japanese citizen gives a shit about the English voice actor for Bayonetta 3. This is such a narrow thing in a niche market for a niche game.
Yeah, but you see my problem with that statement is that it didn't resolve anything. I mean, they didn't.
No,
They didn't even.
they're
They
upset no.
they didn't even tell their side of the story. They could have said, okay, they could have said something along the lines of, Taylor was offered we think a generous salary, and she decided to turn it down for other opportunities, and we at Platinum Games respect the decision, blah blah blah, and hope for the best. They could have closed the lid on all of it if they just came out and say that.
My only counter to that would be the reason they didn't say that is so they can provide legal evidence later.
Well, I mean, if they say the truth, if they come out and say the truth in a statement, then they still got their legal evidence later. I mean,
Maybe. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
if if they came out, if they were lying, if they said we offered a fair amount and that came out to be a lie, then they would have no legal ground to stand on. So maybe they don't.
By that logic, Taylor doesn't either.
Maybe she was telling the truth. It was very odd that she gave a specific number, and
yeah, that didn't help either.
And that she also asked to boycott the game. She could have come out and just said, they gave me an offer, I refused. I, thought was, didn't
unfair.
Unfair, and didn't, wasn't the equal value of what I think my work is, or what I've gotten in previous works, or whatever. But she kind of shot herself in the foot with the coming out and asking people to boycott the game.
Yeah.
But personally, the more I read about this story, it just seems like nothing's been resolved, and we still don't know who's telling the truth and who's not.
Yeah. If this really bothers the person, you can always play in Japanese, so you don't have to hear Jennifer Hale's weird British accent. But I don't know what this is going to do for the sales of the game, if it's going to increase or decrease or net value, because, the English-speaking world is not the bulk of Nintendo's market. But I don't know. I know I'm not playing it, but that's not because of voice acting. It's because it's like a poor woman's Devil May Cry. Or even like a poor person's Nier Automata. Nier Automata is better than Bayonetta.
Yeah, and they're both Platinum games, but I wasn't going to play it either. I've never been
It's
a
a
fan
fascinating
of Bayonetta games.
It's a fascinating mess of a story that there will be more details to follow in the coming year. I'm putting a stamp on it. Taylor's going to sue him.
She might. If she does, she better have a lot of irrefutable evidence in that case. But I don't know. Just judging from the video statements she's made, she comes across as a very overly emotional person. And
I think she also said that Hale doesn't deserve to be Bayonetta. Was that right?
Yeah, that wasn't a really good look either. This whole episode just this drama just makes me seem like Taylor doesn't even want to be a voice actor anymore. It's like she's intentionally sabotaging her own career. And if that's the case, there's better ways to do that.
On the day this happened, people arguing back and forth as they do, and a couple of people were like, what reason would she have to lie? She loses her whole career. And it's like, what reason does anyone have to lie? Do you know why people lie? To get you to believe them. That's it.
Plus, if she thought she could benefit or profit off of it somehow.
Mm-hmm. I remember, people were saying, we should start like a GoFundMe or some shit on the day. And I was like, fuck me, dude. Don't worship any celebrity. Voice actor, movie actor, nothing. These are just people, and they're just as capable of, any negligence or, heaven forbid, evil as any other human being.
Yeah, I would say...
As shown from the guy from Platinum.
I would say you should apply that attitude to big faceless corporations as well.
Sure.
But, they got the consumer over the barrel anyways because they're creating the product.
Everyone who's at Capcom who's making Resident Evil 4 could be a huge bigot, just like incredibly evil and racist and sexist and just horrible human beings. I still want to play the game.
Yeah, no. If you're listening to this podcast, hoping to follow hosts with a strong moral compass, then you're shit out of luck. Sorry.
My thing has always been gather as much information as you can, but make your own decisions. Information is still to come in this Bayonetta story, I believe. But I made my decision years ago when I played Bayonetta 2 on the Wii U. I was like, this blows.
I hate this chick voicing her. Hope they replace her.
Oh no, actually, her voice was not the problem. The voice of the kid was the problem. Whatever. Yeah, so the Bayonetta game sucks, but she has a nice ass. Speaking of characters with nice asses, Stizzy, you've been playing Overwatch 2, right?
Yes, where everyone has a nice ass. It's all that crouching that they do.
Little background. In older episodes of this here podcast, which may or may not be available on your current listening platform of choice, You espouted your love of the original Overwatch game. I played it a lot as well in the early years. You put in several hundred hours, spent a couple dozen dollars. It was your game of the year it came out. Here we are all these years later, and Overwatch 2 is now a different beast, a different market. It's now free to play. That promised player versus enemy story campaign has not come out yet, but they have reduced the team size and changed the way you pick your team and changed the way you even earn new characters to be on your team. So, what are your overall impressions?
Well, yeah, to set it up a little bit, yeah, like you said, I played it when it originally came out in 2016, Overwatch 1, that is, or what we used to call Overwatch. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. And it was probably, it's right up there with Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the original, as my favorite multiplayer game of all time. It might be,
Hmm,
it might be my favorite because it was the first multiplayer game I've ever played where I didn't mind playing solo. I didn't need to get in a group. Like COD is, I played COD solo, but it was much more fun as a group. And
of course.
uh, I loved Overwatch. I love the characters. I love the art styles. I love the maps. I loved the world building that they told in the trailers leading up to the release, and learning about these characters and playing the game. And it was team-based hero type gameplay, and it was, had that kind of, excuse me, MMO or MOBA sort of team setup with, tanks and DPS and healers and all that, and every character was unique and played really different from each other, and it was a ton of fun, and I absolutely loved it and played it for a long time. I'd say pretty regularly for a good solid 3 years up till mid to late 2019, I want to say, when I started
Hmm.
slowing down. And that's because they started, Blizzard started slowing down on their updates, and they eventually stopped releasing new characters. They might have thrown out a new map every few months or so. Uh, Skins just became reskins of other legendary skins, epic skins and whatnot. There was very little effort or thought put into them.
It's clear signs of a game winding down so we can make the next one. Focus our resources on the next iteration.
Yeah, and late 2019 at BlizzCon, they revealed Overwatch 2, and they had this big fancy cinematic trailer showing that Overwatch in the world was coming back, and the team was getting bringing the band back together. And the next game was going to focus on PvE, which is player versus enemy, if listeners
Hmm.
don't know. And they've they had dipped their toes into that throughout the lifespan of Overwatch with different seasonal events. And I think it first started with the Halloween Junkenstein's Revenge, where the
Well, that's right. Yeah.
yeah, the character Junkrat was like Frankenstein, and other characters there were like different Halloween horror, monsters and horror figures and all that. And
Yeah, we did that. It's just like tower defense. Like, don't let them explode this door.
yeah, it was basically a horde mode is what it was. All
Hmm.
these robots would come out, and you'd have to shoot them before they explode, destroy the door and all that. And if they blew up the door, then you lost, and you'd win by taking them all out. And that was really fun. It was cool, and it was a joy to play. And uh, as the years went on, they released other events like that at different times of the year, including Archives event, where it followed the events of Blackwatch, was like the Black Ops team of Overwatch. And that was a little different because they created a whole new map for it, and they eventually released the map for PvP, but they made a whole new map for this archive mode, and there's actual there's a cutscene at the beginning, and there's a whole story behind it. You're trying to escape also, but also being pursued by these secret agents and whatnot. And there's all these foot soldiers and different enemy types and different objectives that would pop up. And they just expanded on the PvE mode, and it was great. And I couldn't wait for more. And when they finally announced Overwatch 2 was coming out, and it sounded like they were going to take it even more to the next level with the PvE, with bigger maps and more objectives, more complex goals that you needed to achieve, and characters would have more abilities, more ultimates, and just a bunch of other cool stuff that I was really looking forward to, because I really I loved playing the game, but I love the world. I love the world of Overwatch, and
Hmm.
I just love the look of it, and I love the characters and all that, and it just all had that that polish that a lot of Blizzard games have, and that you don't, it's hard for, there's not many studios that can uh, developers that can achieve that level of polish and in their
Refinement, yeah.
refinement in their games, and so I was really looking forward to it. And when they revealed it in 2019, they said they'd been working on it for a couple of years by then, um, which would explain why there was such a lack of new content being released for the original Overwatch, the PvP mode. And I thought, okay, that's cool. That's great. I want more PvE. I played a crap ton of the PvP. Enjoyed my time with it, but I would love to see this universe and characters expanded further and play and see what they have in store for PvE, because Blizzard's made great PvE type games, you know. Uh, but
But
then,
then a funny thing happened in between the release of Overwatch and Overwatch 2. Fortnite got really popular and showed other shooters that you can put very little effort in making a game at all, and we just used the two word phrases becoming an anathema to all things good. Battle Pass.
yeah, I thought you were going to talk about the other fun thing, Corona
The
coming out.
oh no, that's that the real life sex controversies. It's like that's not worth talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I
That
was going
thing.
to talk about it, but
Oh
I
well,
mean, I wasn't
you
going to go
can
into
if you want.
detail, but yeah, I mean, that also contributed to everything that's gone on with what is now Activision Blizzard nowadays. They had a lot of employees come out and say there was inappropriate conduct going on in the workplace, and then yeah, you had also COVID come out, so obviously that shut things down. But there was a total radio silence when it came to Overwatch 2. Didn't know
Yeah,
anything, and I just figured, okay, yeah, the world shut down, and a lot of developers don't like to come out and really talk up their games a whole lot. Blizzard doesn't do it unless it's at their own convention.
we wouldn't know anything about Rockstar had they not just had a leak.
Yeah, they're notorious for keeping their lips sealed. And that's what just kind of what I figured with Blizzard going on, but then it just kept happening. And at at the time, yeah, like you mentioned, Fortnite really blew up, along with Apex Legends, and there's been a few other ones. There's another really popular one. A lot of the copies have seemed to crash and burn, but those two have just become absolute titans in the industry. And yeah, they released that Battle Pass concept, and I'm not a fan of it. I
Yeah, they announced Overwatch 2 is going free to play, and that's when I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm not playing Overwatch 2 because I knows what those words mean too. Those words mean microtransactions up the ass. And Overwatch, I didn't think it was as bad as everyone, even you, made it out to be. Overwatch 1's loot box system, I really did not think it was that huge a deal. It is, from my limited understanding now, so much worse in terms of having to grind for shit.
Well, I didn't think the loot box system was bad either.
Okay.
It could get annoying, certainly, but you could always you could get whatever skin you wanted. Either you might get lucky and get it in a box, or you can earn enough credits by leveling up or getting credit for duplicate items in a box,
Mm.
and you get enough, and then eventually you get enough credits to buy the skin you want. So eventually you'd get it. Now, with this new Overwatch system, Overwatch 2, Battle Pass, and more importantly, or just as importantly, the new Overwatch 2 store that's been implemented, Blizzard does not want you to get every skin by just playing the game. They want you to pay money to get the skin.
Yeah.
And not only do they want you to pay money, they want you to pay a lot of money. I'm talking 10, 15, $20 for one or two skins, and that is not an exaggeration.
Another more behind the scenes. Excuse me. More behind the scenes things. It's like in between these two releases, Diablo Immortal also came out, the mobile game that is chock fucking full of microtransactions, and you know, people demanding for the sexual allegation stuff. People demanding that Bobby Kotick step down. They already fired a bunch of other senior level managers, and then Microsoft was like, okay, you know what? We're gonna buy this whole fucking company. Okay, we're gonna fix all these problems. And Sony is like, whoa, no, hold on a minute, there, player. You can't buy this company. And that still hasn't finished yet. It probably won't finish until middle of next year, maybe. So I don't think any of these issues are going to end until then. Till acquisition is final. But even then, it'll be a few more months or years before they can fix quote unquote all the microtransaction problems.
Yeah, and I don't think Microsoft buying Blizzard is gonna just automatically just hand wave and fix all the culture,
No,
the
no, no, no.
issues that they got going on there. But yeah,
They would have to fire a lot of senior level staff, and they could, but it's a year away at
yeah,
least.
who's
So
gonna make
who
the
knows
game
if
then?
it'll actually happen? Well, senior level staff, not programmers and devs.
Yeah, I guess.
Everyone seems to get off of those scot free.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a lead graphic designer, you can pinch as many bottoms as you want. But if you're a manager
As long as
doing
you're not
that,
in charge,
yeah,
yeah, pretty much.
yeah, if you're
That's what we've learned from the hashtag Me Too movement.
if you're a manager, then you're right in the crosshairs. So yeah, what was I saying? Train of lost my train of thought there.
The Blizzard store, they don't want you to pay for. I
Yeah,
mean, they don't want you to play to win. They want you to pay to win.
yeah, they or just yeah to get the skins, which are just totally cosmetic, and they're nice, but it's still a game in a first person perspective, so it's not like you're seeing all the your what you're wearing at all times. So, and being a legacy player, I got a ton of skins already, so and I got one for pretty much one or two I really like for every character, so it's not a big deal for me, and I'm sure as hell not going to pay money just for one or two skins. And I'm not going to pay for the battle pass, even though you have to if you want to lock everything. It's so hilarious when you don't buy the battle pass, but there's still a quote unquote progression system. Like, oh, you can still gain levels. Well, you can't get a voice line for maybe every 10 levels if you don't buy the battle pass. So it's just doesn't even seem worth it. And you don't even get any credits from leveling up. You can get them from completing weekly challenges. But the thing is, they've added multiple currencies like a lot of these live service games do.
Apex has like three, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the names of it, but the symbols, one's a gray credit symbol and the other is a golden credit symbol. And the gray ones seem to be the legacy currency that transferred over from the original. And the gold ones seem to be the new ones that you can earn from weekly challenges, in which you can earn a grand total of 60 credits per week by completing all the challenges. Which
Wow, that's almost a whole foot.
yeah, and I think the epic skins are over 1,000, and the legendaries I think are 1,500 or 2,000, something like that. So it would take you literal weeks and months just to get this just one skin that you might want. Oh, another thing about the store is the skins in the skin packs. They all cycle daily, or
Oh, they're on rotation
yeah,
like in Gran Turismo?
yes,
Excellent.
yeah, they're or it's I think it's bi-daily, 2 or 3 days or something like that. So even if you even if you see a skin you want, you gotta buy it then. Otherwise, you may not see it for
Oh,
another
that's
month or something.
wonderful.
And there's no way of, as far as I know, it's just random. No one's created a website to track them yet, if that is a thing. But
Uh, we're going to transition here to the actual game part of the game here in a moment. But along this idea of microtransactions, This is maybe the 30th game we've seen like this, right? You know, not counting the unpopular spin-offs of Fortnite, but in this style, you know, the Apex and again Gran Turismo and various other games, even the ones that you wouldn't think of being microtransaction heavy, still are. What's going to be the thing to finally break the gaming industry out of this shit?
Boy, I don't know. Um,
Because I'm not even beyond tired of. I'm so far beyond tired of it. I don't put any brain effort into it. Like when they said free to play battle pass, I checked out. I was like, I'm not thinking about this game anymore. I'm out.
yeah, I've given it some thought, but like you, I despise the entire thing, the entire live service game type and the battle passes and paying just money at the shark cards and all that garbage.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just I think it's I don't want to sound like hyperbole, man, but I think it's a blight on the industry. I really do. Uh, but it's not going to. I don't think it's going to go away. Unfortunately, it's too easy for these big corps, these big publishers and developers to look and say, okay, we can spend and exert a minimal amount of effort and resources and time into making this type of game, this mobile game or whatever game that requires a
Mm-hmm.
battle pass, and then just charge up the ass for cosmetic shit. And it doesn't matter if 90% of the players don't hate it and don't buy anything. It's just that 10% or maybe even like a 5% player base to buy it to make a really, really sizable profit for these companies.
It's a lot of back ending. Yeah, I see that a ton. Which is different, I think, than say like you know Resident Evil 4 to go way back. Resident Evil 4 is gonna have this super legendary collector's edition. It's probably gonna be like $200. You get a fucking statue of Leon. It's like wow, but that's different from say Reverse, which is oh here's 8 characters. You want more, you gotta buy them.
Yeah, and apologists will just hand wave it and say, "Oh, well, it's a free game, so you don't have to buy anything." That's true, but that also means that the developer doesn't have to put much effort into the game. Now, I think games like Fortnite and now Overwatch 2, they are really solid games. I mean, I don't like to play Fortnite, but I'll acknowledge that yeah, it's they put some effort into making it and developing the gameplay and all that.
Yeah, half of Fortnite's popularity is the character IPs, and half of it is it works as a solid game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's when a lot of the copycats have failed. They they kind of make a half-ass game and then charge the ass of it. It's like, no, you got to put
Mm-hmm.
a little effort into it, but you don't have to put a ton, and you don't have to spend a lot of development time, as you would say, an expansive PvE experience like Overwatch 2. Because see, in the development, somewhere along the development cycle, they were working on PvE for about 3 years, but then COVID happened and all this internal shit started going on at Blizzard, and someone upper management decided, okay, we're not bothering with that. We need to make a lot of money as quickly as possible. So we need to shift everything into PvP and implement the battle pass and just try to make up our losses as quickly as we can. And so they spent, I
Have
think,
they actually announced a cancellation of the PVE mode or just an infinite delay?
no, no. The latest I've heard, and it wasn't an official statement, so I'd have to do some digging on the and off time, but from what I've heard is they're just basically going to piecemeal it and they're going to introduce it bit by bit like they
A
do.
battle pass for campaign?
Probably so, or something along the lines of the seasonal events where it's a limited time and then it's, once the time expires and it's gone forever, which that's the exact opposite I wanted. I wanted a complete whole experience just all released at once that I could, play at my leisure.
Yeah, you pay $60 for it and then you own it and then it's done. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, which is what I thought when bought the original Overwatch, but now that game's gone. Although, funnily enough, I had the digital version, but people who have the disc version of Overwatch say if you put it in, that'll just boot up Overwatch 2. But I don't think it should be called Overwatch 2. It's not a new game. It's the same game, just one less tank and a few numbers changes behind the scenes.
Yeah, so let's get to the nitty gritty now. How does it actually play? You put literally hundreds of hours into the first game. What's better? What's worse?
That's plays great. It's Overwatch. That's all it is. It's Overwatch with one less tank, and I have a lot of fun with it because I had a lot of fun with the original. I don't like that there's only one tank because I told you and Rob this last night. If in the original Overwatch, if you had a bad or average tank, then you could get away with it. In Overwatch 2, if you have a bad or average tank, you're probably losing, more likely. And there's been games in Overwatch 2 where I'd be playing support and I'll just be healing out the ass. There was one game where I had more healing done than the two supports on the enemy team combined, and we still lost the game. And that's just because we just didn't. We had a tank that just kept, charging in and getting isolated and just burned down super quick, and then it's just the squishy supports and DPS left, and then they just get picked up one by one.
What's the logic behind reducing the team size from 6 to 5?
Well, the logic they stated is because another thing, another problem with the original Overwatch later in its life cycle is they made a lot of throughout the game's life made a lot of changes with characters, and some were more drastic than others, but and every new character got added in, just would kind of mix things up and change the meta up all on its own. And it got to be the point where there were a ton of shields and there were way too many crowd control abilities. By crowd control I mean basically stuns. Uh, Too many abilities that would just click of a button,
Hit
you're
multiple
stunned.
targets.
Yeah, well that, but like McCree's his grenade, his stun grenade, just like you just throw it out and then he just headshot you or, fan the hammer and you're dead. Or Bridget, a support healer, had a shield bash that stunned you. And if you were a squishy DPS or a support that got isolated and stunned, and then she could just wail on you with her mace, and then you're dead. And there's a few others that like that where it was just there was too many shields and there was too many stuns, and it was you're just it was not fun anymore, and that was a part of why I stopped playing as well. And so they decided in two to reduce the number of shields and the number of stuns. And I admit it's nice. It is nice that there's not constantly shields up everywhere, and there's actual targets that I can hit and do damage and try to eliminate. And there's not. And playing DPS, I played a little bit of DPS in two. It's nice to be able to go in the back lines without having to worry about a Bridget shield bash or McCree stunning me and then me unable to get out of it or get back to safety and whatnot. So, um,
There's a prevailing theory. This is not. This is among people who play games. It's like, back in Call of Duty days when you hear, "Oh, this gun's too powerful" or "This gun's too weak. Buff it." And what they usually do is buff defensive capabilities rather than offensive capabilities. When your average gamer who doesn't know shit about game programming thinks, well, why don't you just buff everything? Why don't you just make everything super strong? So that way nothing's weak. That fucking syndrome of everything's strong, nothing is sort of nonsense. And that's not how balance works. Especially if they're disparate. If like every single player had the exact same gun, and then it would all be skill. But because this specific type of game requires different loadouts for everyone, there's going to be varying skill levels and varying ways of interacting. I'm not saying this right, but you know what I mean in terms of like what's strong versus what's weak. There's always going to be something unbalanced, and you can try to fuck with it as much as possible, but you can't hit a perfect zero.
no, but I don't think they should ever stop trying to.
Of course not. Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, you mentioned it's a lot of skill levels to take into account. With one less tank, and just they did add a lot of defensive buffs, especially to two tanks in general. I think they have more armor, which reduces damage, and they also take less knockback. They don't get knocked back as far from skills that do that, and they're extremely tanky uh, in general, but some are more tankier than others. Like Zarya, they changed her bubble where instead of separate cooldowns for her self bubble and her bubble she could give to an ally, now she has two charges to split up between the two abilities. So in theory, she could bubble herself once and then bubble an ally, or she could bubble an ally twice. Or what I'm seeing now, and what is making Zarya such a pain in the ass to play against, is she can bubble herself twice. So she can take on like two or three enemy combatants at once. And a lot of people, it's hard to judge when the best time to shoot her bubble is, because a lot of people either shoot it all the time or never shoot it. And there are times where you want to shoot it. If she's by herself, then and she doesn't have a pocket healer, then yeah, go nuts, burn her down, burn the shield down, and then take her out. But if she's got a pocket healer and it's just two of them, and she's got her bubbles, then yeah, God, she's just impossible. It's crazy, and I don't. And there's some tanks that don't even feel like tanks; they just feel like DPS with more health. Um, and with all these changes, the thing I've noticed the most is that Overwatch 2 seems much more skill based than Overwatch 1. And what I mean by that is I think there's a greater potential for solo carry, which is fun to see. And if you're that good, then it's a great feeling. But at the same time, I also think it conflicts with the spirit of the original, of the first Overwatch, which was a team based game, and it was about adapting to your enemy team's loadout. And
Yeah, but it was on the fly adaptation. In that Zara scenario, what I'm thinking, like as you're describing, I'm thinking, okay, so if she's double shielding, why are we attacking her at all? Go around, go somewhere else. What do we need to attack this one invincible person for? There's another team out there.
well, I
Because
think
that's to me what Overwatch is.
I think that the one tank per team kind of exacerbates that. Now every game feels like, okay, if we can take out the tank and then we can get a team wipe, which happens a lot. I've gotten
So it becomes a 1v5 game for a while.
sort of, yeah. I mean, if Azaria goes up alone, if she's by herself against the whole enemy team, all five of them, then yeah, she's dead. But like I said, if she's got a pocket healer, then it's very, very hard to take her down. And there's just a big imbalance with the other tanks in the class. But like I was saying, it's just, it seems like there's more emphasis on skill in the game and not so much as team cooperation and strategies and on the fly tactics and class changes and all that, which is what made the game original so much fun for me,
Yeah,
because
that's why I liked it when I played it. Yeah.
it wasn't it wasn't another COD or Battlefield. It wasn't a Twitch shooter, which I played those when I was younger and they were fun, but that was more because I was playing with the right people and they made it fun, not because I really am in love with that style of FPS game. But Overwatch, it was different. It was a hero class game, which I love, and they all had these different abilities, and some complemented other characters more, and some would counter other characters more than others, and it was nice just trying to, as you played a game in Overwatch, to there was that ebb and flow to try and find the right balance in the
Hmm.
team and the right team composition. And now if other team has a really good Reaper, then they can just steamroll you, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it, honestly, unless you just have a someone who's a really really, really good Widowmaker, some or a really good Pharaoh. So yeah, it just doesn't it's kind of an odd feeling because it in a lot of ways it's still the same game. It's still fun to play, but there's just there's something different about it, and
The je ne sais quoi.
it's just not it's not even just the inclusion of the battle pass and the store. It's in the actual game itself, playing it, getting in a match, and you're like, yeah, it's like going to a restaurant and getting a dish you've gotten hundreds of times, but they get a new chef, and there's something a little different about it. There's a different spice or different way they prepare it, and it's not the same. And it's in Overwatch 2's case, I think it's worse than the original. Um, and a
Do
lot
you
of
see
just
yourself playing this for several hundred hours like you did the first?
absolutely not. No. Um, I'm playing it now just because it's new, and I do like the new characters that they added. They've added Junker Queen, um, got a healer Kariko. She's like a ninja girl that throws kunais, and she's got a magic fox. And Junker Queen has a shotgun and a knife that she can throw and recall back like Thor's hammer. And another DPS shooter called Sojourn, and she's got an assault rifle, but also when it gets enough charge, then you can release a beam like a rail gun. And she's got a slide and a high jump, and they're really fun to play. But once that newness wears off, then I don't see myself playing a whole lot of the game. And don't get me wrong, I didn't play the first Overwatch for hundreds of hours because I liked the loot box system and I liked leveling up. But those things certainly add to the experience, and it gives you something to strive for, and
Incentives, yeah.
it gives you that small little bit of dopamine after every game, which it seems like the battle pass system would be uniquely catered to, but the thing is, you got to pay for it every time, and there's one for every season that lasts for 2 or 3 months. So it's like going to your drug dealer every once in a while just to get your new hit instead of having a one-time payment and then having a level up system that you can constantly there's something to always gain, and you get credits or skins or what have you in the original. Now it's just okay, just yeah, here's your free game, but also if you want any new cosmetics, then you got to pay for this and you got to pay for that. You can pay for this, but it may not be available.
To use one of your food metaphors, here's a sandwich. It's just two pieces of bread. Well, technically, that's a sandwich. If you want all the other stuff,
Yeah, you got to pay extra. Whether it's you got to pay this much for the meat and this much for the lettuce and tomatoes and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, and yeah, to summarize it, yeah, it's a lot of ways it's the same game. It's fun to play. It's hot. It's fresh. They announced they had up to 25 million players, but how impressive is that when it's a free game?
and those again are early numbers. What's the sustainability?
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in the first initial spike in population. I want to know what it's like several months later, a year later, because it's the same with MMOs. That shows you the the frequency of updates and also the quality of updates and how much the developer listens to the community, takes their feedback seriously, and implements the best changes, whether they're balance or patches or whatever. Just do the best job to make the best product that they can and create the best experience for gamers and their fan base. And that's how you keep a fan base. That's how they retain their loyalty. Not by completely axing something, axing the PvE, which a lot of people, including myself, were looking forward to, and then just slapping the battle pass, slapping the store on the main page, and saying, "Here you go. Here's more. This is probably what we should have been doing. If we were going to do this, we should have implemented it years ago, but we stopped to develop this other thing, but we dropped that. So, you know, back to business as usual, but now with a battle
It's an
pass."
interesting and terrifying era we're in gaming now, where not everything, a lot of there's a fuckload of single player content out there. I don't want to be doom and gloom, But so many games come out and don't want you to actually play them. They want you to buy them and then continue to buy them even though you already bought them. It's like, does Overwatch really give a fuck if you play it? No, it cares if you buy the new skins.
Yeah, the numbers, the population numbers that they set out. I mean, that only shows you if you're Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, that just shows you the potential customers. Like, oh, we got 25 million people. If we can get a million of those to buy these skins, not even that, heck, not even that many, maybe like 300,000 to buy a handful of skins, then we're sitting pretty. And the skins are so expensive that they don't need to sell a lot. And they're also expensive because I think they're going to do what a lot of these other developers do, and they'll pretend to listen to the community's feedback and decrease the prices, and then all of a sudden they're the good guys again because, oh, look, we listened to the fans. See, it's cheaper now. It's it's that bargaining tactic where you ask for a price that's much higher than your desired one.
Yep, I was
That
about to say that.
that way
Yep.
that way you can, if you can pretend to be lowballed and get to the price down to what you want.
How does Walmart constantly lower prices but still stay in business? Well, think about it. Because the prices were way too high in the first place. That's how.
Yeah, plus being a giant one-stop shop, they're counting on the fact that when you get in there, you see all this other stuff like, oh, now that I think about it, now that I'm here, I'll get I'll get some toothpaste. I need some.
I have
Yeah,
I have some Overwatch bucks left over. I might as well buy this Winston skin. Yeah, while I'm here.
I still have my legacy credits, but oh, that's another thing I didn't get into. There's only with these different types of currencies, there's only certain types of skins and cosmetics you can buy with certain currencies.
Of course.
So I got all these legacy bucks that the only thing I can buy with them are other legacy outfits, which I have most of them. So what good does it do me? So yeah, it's just I don't. It's a very odd feeling. It's like seeing a sibling that you haven't in years, and they're just completely changed their look and their attitude and all this,
We,
and
we don't
just
we don't have to go that far. I think we can go to something we've talked about. Not you and I specifically. Marvel, Disney, Warner Brothers. These properties that we've loved for years, and now they start fucking with it, and it's like, oh, this isn't what I like anymore. And then peace sign, we're out. I checked out of Overwatch too. I'm probably not. It's I try not to give hundreds on this. It's like 99.9% repeating. I won't be playing Overwatch 2.
yeah, like I stated, I'll play it till the sheen of the new characters wears off, and might come back for a seasonal event or two, and if they ever
Yeah.
release PvE, but it's not. I'm not hopeful that they ever will. It just makes me wonder what they did with all that work. They spent over 3 years in developing the PvE. Like, where does it go? They just dump it in the digital trash can, and that's it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Control X. It's gone.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I've I've looked on threads, and a lot of Blizzard employees that confirmed Blizzard employees apparently have talked about the effort that went into developing the PvE, and a lot of them equate it to creating a new character with all the new abilities just that these old characters have, and they play completely differently, and that took a lot of time and effort, but now it's just, yeah, sorry,
It's in
just
the ether. This
yeah.
happens more often than we know about. We just never hear about it. Uh, I don't. It's too late for this show, but there's a lot of stories of games like, oh, this unannounced game was canceled. It's like, how do we know you canceled? You never announced. Oh, we worked on it for a year, but then said fuck it. You hear that a lot. It's like, we never heard of this game. How long have you been working on it? Well, like 3 years. It's like, why didn't you say anything? No, it's gone now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but Overwatch 2 was announced. That's the difference.
Yes, yes,
They had
that's true.
trailers, they had interviews, they had stills, they had press conferences, they had video conferences when everybody was forced to work at home. They had all this new footage throughout, in the since between 2019 and late 2021, and it's just they're just ramping people up for all the talking about all this work and blood, sweat, and tears going into it, and how proud of it they are. But then someone higher up decides in a different direction, and that just people that are looking forward to it are just shit out of luck now. Like, hmm.
What we've learned from this here episode of podcast is that if you treat your customers well, like Capcom is doing, they'll keep buying your stuff and you'll make a shitload of money like Capcom is doing. If you turn your customers off, then you're going to lose them probably forever.
Yeah, and kind of to circle back to Silent Hill as well, it is encouraging to see Konami at least releasing new entries in these, or at least or case of Silent Hill 2, a remake of an old entry, but it's a console game, and console and PC. It's not just a mobile game or a pachinko game, which are big over in Japan.
It's that meme of the stick figure ninja poking the dead thing. It's like, come on, do something.
Yeah, the dead thing is all the Konami IP. So hey, and I don't know. Heck, they may be losing money on the pachinko machines for all I know, but and they're just remaking these games and releasing these console games just to.
Mm-hmm. I think the remake is guaranteed money. It's like people are going to buy this because it's such a popular entry in the most hailed of the franchise. So that will give them investment to make new entries, maybe? I don't know. But a lot of people would have to buy into Silent Hill 2 for that to be true.
Yeah, and it's definitely something fans have clamored for. So.
And when did Capcom turn around? They were down for years. I mean financially, but like in the public spectacle, right?
Hmm.
Resident Evil 2 remake, when they announced that, and then Devil May Cry 5, they hit it out, and then Monster Hunter, they're like, bam, suddenly that you gave people what they wanted, and now they're giving you their money, and now you can make more stuff. It was that easy and that simple.
Yeah, they might have turned the corner even during when Street Fighter V was still in the mainstream, and that
Yeah,
game,
late in Street Fighter V's life, yes.
yeah, because you know more about this than I do, but because I got it late, and there's a store in Street Fighter V that you can buy cosmetics and all that and characters, but there's also a way you can earn the credits as well just by playing the game, and then you can buy whatever you want, which is nice. And I did that in 5 to buy some of the new characters, and some of them I didn't buy because I didn't like, or I didn't, wasn't interested in or anything. So I don't know if that's always been the case for that game or if they added that in later on.
It wasn't at launch, I know that.
So yeah, they've had a really good redemption arc, and I hope they keep at it.
Yes. Keep
And
making good games, people will keep giving you their money.
yeah, and not only that, but good single player games and
Yes.
or multiplayer games you just have to buy
Not that
once.
Capcom doesn't just keep trying to shove Resident Evil multiplayer. It was like fifth or sixth try.
Yeah,
We'll get it eventually.
yeah. Boy, yeah, that game took a year off to polish it, and I think it needs a little more time in the oven.
And that's a thing you can totally dump. It's like, oh, we spent all this time on this PvP mode. And it's like, nah, dump it. Focus all on PvE. You don't need it.
And it's something as a consumer I'm willing to forgive because, like you said, they've released so much other good stuff
Mm-hmm.
over the year, in the past few years. So
They used to be called Crapcom, but now no more. Now they're respected again.
and now they're called just Capcom now because there's no.
Which is Capcom. Uh, I think that's it for us. Thank you. Do you have anything else in final?
No, no, sorry, I kind of tailed off there.
Nah,
I
that's fine.
know in my Overwatch 2 talk, but there's just
I expected that, to be honest.
they're just I got so many emotions with that game and so many
No,
thoughts.
it's near and dear to you. Totally understandable.
And while I'll like I said, we'll play 2 every once in a while, but I'm not gonna be playing it nearly as frequently as I did the
Meanwhile,
first
I've
game.
suddenly become a COD bro again. After how many years?
Yeah,
I've been
that's
playing all the fucking Call of Duty games. That's a tease for the next episode that I'm gonna do with my brother. We're gonna talk all about that shit.
oh man, I cannot wait for
Uh,
that.
Look forward to that. But for this episode, that's it for me and him.
Hmm.
You can find me on the Twitter at Loki Jarson. You can't find Stizzy anywhere because he's busy playing Overwatch 2. Message him in Overwatch 2 and say how much you think he sucks at the game or something. Do that. It'd be funny. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
See ya.